Hello, hello, and welcome back to the cringiest show that nobody watches. I hope you've been following me along for this series. I, your host and narrator, the bald guy, in absolutely destroying your vehicle. Because if you have, then congratulations. This has all been a giant prank, and good luck with your now completely wrecked vehicle. Haha, just kidding. This will be episode 5, where we finally put some paint on the clapped out Dakota. Before we get into the part where I actually paint the truck, I wanted to go over the price of what it actually cost me to paint this truck. And I know I said it's the cheapest, jankiest paint job on earth or whatever. That's not completely true, but the reason why is when you get on YouTube and you type in cheap paint job or whatever, it'll pop up, $60 paint job, $100 paint job. But all they really tell you is the price of the paint. And I wanted to go completely from scratch. You got to buy everything you need to actually get the paint on the truck. From this point on, like if you decide to paint another vehicle, you'll already have the things necessary. And that's when the paint job will actually just cost you $60. So let's get into what I used and what it cost. Okay, what we got here is we got a respirator, in case you care for your lungs. A tack cloth. Can of bed liner. Some gloss black paint. Some satin black paint. And this, I'm going to use. This is a pretty cool little thing. It comes from Rust-Oleum. Your regular cans spray a little dot. And this one, you have the option to spray a little dot. Or you can twist it over here to these two, which spray a fan, which will make it a heck of a lot easier on us. So you don't have to have that, but it will make it easier on you. Only reason why I only got one of these cans is because you can pop this lid off and put it on these cans. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Had to order that one. I just went to Walmart and bought those cans. Had to order that one. So I just ordered it. It's more expensive. So I just ordered one of them. I'm going to swap the lid in and out. You got tape. You're going to need some tape to mask off. And some old cardboard back here. Well, and some old cardboard. So, some rags to wipe it down. We're going to use Sprayway for our prep. You can use Sprayway. You can buy actual prep. You can use isopropyl alcohol. Sprayway, for me, works just fine. It's like $2 a can. Wipe the whole truck down with it. It's fine. So that's pretty much it. The bed liner, I'm not actually spraying in a bed liner right now. The bumper, the rear bumper where you stick your feet, I am going to use the bed liner around that part where you put your feet. That way it can stand up to me kicking it and stepping on it all the time. Now with the satin, what we're going to do is I'll show you what we're going to do. But that's pretty much it. That's what I'm going to use to paint the truck with. Okay, so if you take all that, everything I just showed you, you add it together, and then you take everything from the last video that I used to do the body work on the truck, which I got on the screen now. If you take all of that and then some stuff you'll notice that I haven't showed you, I'll show it later in the video. But if you take all their prices and add it together with what I just showed you, the paint and everything included, it cost about $400 for me to paint the Dakota. Now that sounds like a lot, but it's not really. It's about, it's right on par with what an average base coat clear coat would cost just to purchase the paint. So now you'll have everything to do a basic, simple paint job from here on out. All you'll have to buy is paint, and then like reusable stuff like uh, sandpaper and everything. But I mean, with all that aside, that's pretty much what you can expect to start completely from scratch with like nothing basically to do body work or paint with, and get you a pretty decent paint job laid on your project vehicle. Now that we got that out of the way, let's roll the video. Okay, so here I'm just going to mask the truck up. And I just wanted to give you a little, like, explanation of what I'm doing, I guess you could say. Is I'm just simply taking the tape, I'm taking my time and making sure I get it right around all of the emblems or whatever it is I don't want to get paint on. And I just want to make sure I take the paint and I get it good and precisely wrapped around what I don't want to get paint on. I even have you'll see me using a little pick right here to help me make sure I get it up underneath that emblem and it's not sticking out anywhere, so that the paint will lay perfectly around what I don't want it to, and it'll make it extremely hard to tell that I even masked that off, so that it'll give it more like I actually removed the emblem, painted it, and then put it back. Now, the whole point of me even doing this or making these videos is because I wanted to show people that you don't have to have a garage or a lot of money or equipment or anything. You can take a vehicle that you want to doll it up with minimum amounts of money, minimum amounts of tools, minimum amounts of know-how. So, to stay true to that, this is what we're going to be painting the truck with. Yeah, I know, it's a rattle can, redneck paint job, but I'm telling you, 90% of making a paint job look good is prep. And I've been prepping it for a while. I've done the best I could with my know-how and the minimum tools I used and that I got. But you can use a rattle can and a lot of elbow grease and get a pretty decent paint job. And anybody can buy a rattle can and get paint to spray out of it. You don't have to have a air compressor and a paint gun or a turbine paint sprayer like I got, or none of that stuff. All you need is some elbow grease, a little bit of money, and a lot of determination, and you can get a pretty good paint job out of this. Well, it's washed, it's dried, it's masked. Oh, except for those mirrors. Hold on, let me mask those mirrors. Okay, I'm back. It's time to put some paint on it. The first step to spraying it down will be wiping it down. Now, you can you can go buy actual paint prep. Like, you can buy stuff to wipe it down, actually designed and made to prep surfaces to put paint on. That's too much money. This is like $2.50 a can. This will work just fine. This or alcohol, isopropyl alcohol. They get a low grade isopropyl alcohol, watered down stuff. If you do use that 90, I've had it strip paint off and cause problems. But get some lower watered down isopropyl alcohol, works just fine. This stuff works just fine. The reason why you wash it is you want to get all the dirt, all the dust out of the scratches. When you sanded it down, you create a lot of dust. And that dust will stick and cling to the scratches you made. You want the scratches in the paint so that the paint has an actual physical something to grab a hold of. So you want to make sure it's all cleaned out or the paint won't stick. And then you want to wipe it down with some kind of degreaser, like the spray away isopropyl alcohol, actual paint prep, something like that. You want to get your oils. You got oils on your fingers, and when you touch the surface of the paint, it leaves them oils behind, and that'll cause you problems like fish eyes. It can cause you other problems too, like just if it don't fish eye, it won't adhere properly, and in a couple of months, you'll have bubbles or flakes or something. So you want to take and wipe it all down to get all them oils and make sure all the truck is clean. There's nothing that's going to be between the paint you're putting on it. Nothing's going to be between the surface and the paint that you're putting on. Anything in between that cause you problems. So, alright, now, a lot of people rag on rattle cans and stuff. You tell somebody you painted something with a rattle can, and they're like, oh my god. Dude, what comes out of this can is the same thing as single stage paint. If you go on any website, Eastwood, wherever, and you buy some single stage paint, it's the same thing that's in this can. It's just you spray it out of a spray gun. And way back in the day, all vehicles had single stage paint. It is not as durable. It will not last as long as base coat, clear coat. But you can make it look pretty good, and you can make it last a while if you take care of it. Well, let's start wiping it down.
Boy, you got the cities alive in it.
Well, we got it wiped down, and it's starting to get a little dark on me, and I can't see very well. So, and it's starting to get kind of chilly too. And when you paint, you want your paint to be, or you want your temperature to be like 60, 70. That's optimal, which is what it's supposed to be tomorrow. So as long as the weatherman ain't lying, I'll paint it tomorrow. So we'll wipe it down again just to be safe, and then tomorrow we're spraying it. On here real quick. Okay, so buy you a tack rag. You get these at Walmart. They're pretty cheap, a couple of dollars. But tack rag it down before you spray it. Howdy. So tack rag it down before you spray it, and that'll get dust and whatever. It'll clean off little specks of dust and whatever crap that falls out of that tree or it'll pick it up. So now you want to start on the roof first, so because you have to climb in the bed and all that stuff. I start on the roof first and then do the rest of the body.
Cities alive, man. Cities alive, man. Cities alive, man.
Coat one.
city's alive in it. Boy, hear that? The city's alive in it.
Well, it's painted and it looks like trash. But that's fine. That's fine. I expected it to. I mean, spray can outside in the driveway. It's the next phase that will do to make it prettier. So instead of being a 100-foot paint job, we're going to try and get it down like a 30-foot paint job. So that means it'll look good from about 30 foot. So, well. It's me again. That coat of paint you just see me put on that Dakota will not be the final coat of paint on this paint job. I attempted to paint this truck before I went to work. I tried to wake up early, paint it before I went to work. That did not work out. On top of I didn't lay the paint down very well, I just simply ran out of time. So what you'll see me do later on is I'm going to use this paint that I just put on there, these couple of very thin half-butt coats of paint, as a base coat. So I'll sand it down later. You'll see I'll sand it down and we'll respray this truck. So learn from my mistakes and don't rush it. Take your time. Don't try to do this, an hour before you go to work. When you peel your masking off, you want it to peel it off while the paint's still tacky. If not, it'll harden to it, and then sometimes it'll peel it off in a flake. So you want to peel it off while the paint's still tacky. And you want to pull it away from the paint. like so. Okay, so like I just mentioned a moment ago, that I'm going to use that paint that you just seen me spray on there as a base coat, and this is just going to be me sanding sanding down that paint so that I can re-spray it. Now what you see me doing a lot of here is wet sanding the truck with 600 grit. Now when I initially painted this truck, we sanded it down with 320 grit, which is perfect for laying down a single stage paint in my opinion. 320 grit is fine. But since I'm going to use this as a base coat now, I wet sanded it with 600 grit so that it'll help the next, the rougher the grit, it seems like the rougher the paint wants to lay. So I'm going to hit it with a 600 grit to try and help prevent what was essentially a rough look from the first time I sprayed it. So the 600 grit will maybe help the paint lay a little smoother, which is essentially what happened. So I feel like the 600 grit was a good decision in this case. As you'll see later when I show you the finished product, it really did help the paint lay quite a bit smoother. Okay, so we're going to do it one panel at a time. First I'm going to do tailgate. I'll show you how I'm going to do it on the tailgate. And then it's getting dark on me, so I'm going to have to speed through the rest of it. Basically, take your can up. You're going to hit it. Put a coat on it. Put a light coat on it. Let it flash dry. Just a few minutes. Put a second coat on it. It's a little heavier. And then put a third coat on it. You should be good. So here I'll show you. This can sprays a fan pattern. So you want to take your tack cloth that you got. This will just pick up any kind of little dust or lint specks or anything that's on the panel. So knock it down. Probably can't hear me with this mask on, but here we go. Okay, you get that light coat on there. Now, painting with these cans is not like painting with a regular paint gun. You're not going to be able to do the perfect fan pattern and then 50-50 overlay, 50-50 overlay. The best way I can describe it is you want to spritz it on there and then chase the wet edge. So you'll kind of see, you put that light coat on there, let it flash. And that helps it really grab a hold of them scratches and stuff you got on there. That little light coat, just real thin, grabs a hold of it. Then your next one will chemically bond to that first coat that's got a good hold on the panel. Once it gets good and flashed, just kind of knock it down with your tack cloth again. Because you're outside, it's going to get stuff that's land on it. So then you want this coat to be a little bit thicker. See, then you get your second coat on there a little thicker, so it'll help cover. And then this third coat will go just a little thicker with the third coat to cover it up. You should be good. You can move on to your next panel. Now this fan pattern, when you spray a dot, like the regular can's gonna spray a dot, it's really easy to get too much on there and have it run. With this tip, the fan tip, you can't do it like a regular paint gun, like I said. But it will help you keep from getting runs, because it'll put the same amount of paint on there, but in a larger area. So it helps you keep from getting runs. All right, take your tack cloth again. Get it. You want it to be. You don't want it to be real thick and clumpy to get clumped together. Blah, clumpy. What the frick? Just making words up here. And then just kind of knock it, some of the dust off her. Okay. Now let's put our third coat on it. There's your third coat. It's a little thicker than the other coats. As you can see, it's got good coverage on it. And that's pretty much it. Now what you're going to see me do is come back through, and I'm going to take some satin paint, and down there across the bottom on that, I'm going to hit it with satin paint because I'm going to go around the whole bottom of the truck with satin, and then I'll blend it in to the other parts. Now you don't have to do it. I'm just doing this to experiment with what I can do with a rattle can. But I'm going to go around the bottom with satin, and then I'll go around the whole bottom of the truck, the top. I'm going to hit the hood with some satin. That's pretty much it. You got it. After that, you can put a fourth coat on it if you want to. I may put a fourth coat on it just to show you. Once that gets dried up, we'll throw a fourth coat. I think we should be good. Put our fourth coat. Fourth coat. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot down just the bottom of it right there in that one spot with a coat of satin. So I'll have glossy black into a flat, glossy into a satin. What I'm going to try to do, experimenting with these rattle cans, is where it's single stage paint and while it's wet, I can put them together. You can sand satin single stage paint to a gloss. So instead of having a masked hard line of a two-tone paint job, I'm going to try to have it smooth, flushed in together. Easier said than done. But if all else fails, you can sand that into a glossy black. Or you just go back over it with, buy a couple of cans of glossy black and go back over it. Shelter for now. We're not completely done with the truck, but it does have paint on it now. So praise be to the Lord that it doesn't look like absolute garbage. I got pretty lucky. Like I said, that I tried to get here and paint it before I went to work, because you have to paint it on the right temperature on a pretty day. Like, you don't want any wind because you're outside. The little spray can, man, they ain't much. You're spraying and the wind blows. It won't even be hitting the vehicle anymore. It'll just be blowing away. So I gotta try to pick a day without any wind, good and pretty, and right temperature between 60, 80 degrees, and you got it lit. So I just waited until I got me the right day, a day I didn't have to work, and I painted it. That first go around, I put what was essentially one coat. I put two really thin coats on the truck in about an hour and a half before I had to go to work. I just didn't have any more time to put any more coats on it, and it looked like absolute dog crap. It had runs and it looked bad. So I just sanded it down with 600 grit. I went 320 in some spots where that had sags. Got the sags out of it, runs or whatever you want to call it. And then sanded the whole truck down with 600 grit. And then we sprayed what you see now. We used that first couple of coats as a primer. This paint says paint plus primer, but I mean, you really want to use an actual primer. Now I was going to try to skip out to not use a primer. I was just going to put the single stage coat on there and be done with it. But if you really want to properly paint something, don't cheap out on the primer. It will help you in the long run. It's a step of prep, primer is. And 90% of the looks of your paint job come from your prep. And then the other 10% comes from after you spray it because, well, for me anyway, because I suck at putting the paint on there. But then we'll sand it and buff it. Okay, so we got her painted. It's satin on the bumpers and around the wheel fender flares there. But you'll see from the first go I did it. I tried to paint the truck before I went to work. And that only gave me, I woke up kind of late to do that. So that only gave me a few hours. It gave me about 2 hours to do everything, and I just couldn't get it done. And it looked like garbage. So I basically just left that paint on there as a primer. And I primered or used it as a primer. Man, I wish the whole truck looked like that. But basically use that as a primer, re-sanded it down, and then give it this go. So you wouldn't really have to do that. But in my opinion, if you're going to paint a vehicle, you should at least put some kind of primer on it. That paint says paint plus primer, but it would have been better to use an actual primer as to then use the paint I'm going to use as color. But you can see the satin down there. I kind of really like that. Now this isn't the finished product. I'm going to show you guys how to wet sand it and get that orange peel out of it and all your little imperfections. I mean, we're outside under a tree. See that? So you got those and whatever fell out of that tree all over the truck. So what you'll need to do, see, like that, is to get those out, you'll need to wet sand above. I got a sag there. You'll need to wet sand that out. See, and I got a small one there. But that's it. Got the paint on it. I went and sat it on the roof. I ran out. I didn't have enough to put 2 coats on it, so I'm gonna have to re-sand that and re-spray it. That's what you get for trying to be too cheap. But that's basically it. It's painted. Bed looks like trash on the inside. Oh well. I'm gonna use it as a truck, so it'll probably look much worse eventually. There she is. Painted. Okay. I've been experimenting on it. I've never polished single stage paint. So I wanted to experiment on it and figure it out first before I actually show you what I did. I think I figured it out, I figured out how to make it look pretty good for pretty cheap. So I polished that side and I had to respray my hood. So I gotta re-sand it down and polish it. I was experimenting on it and I goofed it up pretty bad. So I just had to re-sand it down and respray it, which is one cool thing about using rattle cans. If I go down the road tomorrow and smash into something and it just scratches the whole side of my truck up, I just scuff it down and respray it. Like that. Like next pretty day. But anyway, I'm gonna polish this side to show you what I did. I'm gonna polish driver's side, and then we'll repolish the passenger side, and I'll show you exactly what I did. So this is pretty much what you're gonna need. You're gonna need a drill, these two polishes, this polish. These two polishes together are like 12 bucks. This one's 20. But I wanted to get it and try it. Whoop. And it works great. Some towels, some sandpaper, some tape, and you drill. And you're gonna need like 3 of these. They're pretty cheap. I got some somewhere else. I'm gonna have to dig them up and find them. But that's pretty much it. That's all you're gonna need. So you can tell I've done been using that one. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, you can see I done polished this side compared to this side. And see, it kind of looks extra shiny in the video, but it is not. You can see it's not very shiny, but that's what it looked like when you get done sanding it. And this is what it looked like before. You see that? It's orange peel. So look here, and I got some scratches. But what you do is you take your 1500 grit. I'll show you, but I'll explain it now. You take your 1500 grit and you sand down the orange peel till it gets good and smooth. And then you take your 2000 grit and your 3000 grit. 2000 grit to get rid of the 1500 grit scratches. 3000 grit to get rid of the 2000 grit scratches. And then that's when we start polishing it. So this fender did look like this hood. So when you get done, it'll look like that. And then we'll polish it to bring the shiny back. So what you got to do, since I wanted to experiment, I painted this, and this part from here down the truck. It's matte, or satin black, because these are in pretty bad shape, and that dull will hide a lot of the imperfections. So I wanted to kind of experiment to hide some imperfections on it and stuff. I painted this satin. So what we're gonna have to do is tape this off, tape these off. Now this, where it's got the body line, you should be able to just be real careful and not get into the satin, because if you get the polish on the satin, it's gonna make it shiny and not dull. You don't want that, and then it won't be satin no more, it'll just be glossy black. So if you go real careful down this body line, we should be able to keep from getting into the satin, and I think we'll have it looking pretty slick. But first we gotta clean her off. You always want to make sure everything's clean before you go to polishing or sanding or anything. You'll just dig that dirt down in there and it'll cause you problems. So you want everything clean. Clean, clean, clean. cocaine messing up my allergies here. Got my sinuses real combobulated or whatever. I don't know. Some kind of words. Anyway, so what I'll do first is I'll take me a microfiber rag here, and I'll just knock off some of the bigger crap that's fell out of the sky and landed on the paint. Gotta knock it off. That. Oh yeah, something else I'll get to show you. It's like right here, I sanded through the paint. I'll show you how to fix that. It's pretty easy fix on this rattle can paint jobs. I mean, they will not look as pretty as base coat, clear coat, but they are much more convenient to work with. So, let's finish wiping this down, knocking off all the big stuff. Now, we'll come back through with another rag and clean it. We're gonna use spray away. I love this stuff, man. You can use it for about anything. You could probably shower with it. It even smells good. Okay. So now we'll come back through and clean off anything that's actually stuck to the paint. Okay. So you can't really tell this rag was clean when I started, but I don't know if you can really tell in the camera or not, but I can see my handprint bringing off dirt. You don't want that on there because your polish, it'll just dirty your polish up and it'll just eat it into the paint. Now, because I'm just a regular dude who has to spend, who doesn't have a lot of time and has to spend what little time he does have selling his soul to a company that don't care about him in order to feed his family, I'm going to show you how to polish this fender with the drill and foam pad for a drill. And then the rest of the trick I'm gonna do with my actual polisher. Now, the polisher I bought is just $100, just a $100 polisher, and it does excellent for what you need to do with it. Not professionally, it ain't no professional grade or nothing, but for $100, I'll show you, put a link or something. You can buy that if you want to. This drill is just 20 bucks, and this foam pad is like $5. So you're gonna need 3 foam pads, 1 drill. It'll get you by. You probably already got it. Most people probably already got a drill. But with that, it'll get you by. But just to save me time, because it's going to be slower to use this than my polisher, I'll show you how to polish this fender with the drill, and then the rest of the truck I'm gonna knock out with my polisher. So first you're gonna want, this is a thicker compound. This isn't the best stuff, but for the money, I mean, this is $6. Now you can go and get Meguiar's polish. It looks like sriracha sauce, or what do you want to call it, shrimp sauce. Oh, it's orange looking. This stuff looks like mayonnaise. What polish is it's got little platelets in it, and it's kind of like sand, but they're super fine, and they dig in there and they polish it down. This is supposed to be more of a rougher grit to really level everything out. Then you'll come back through with this polishing compound. It's a finishing compound. Platelets are much finer, and it'll really put the sheen on it. And then we're going to come back through with this stuff. It's a ceramic acrylic black polish by Turtle Wax, and it's got a black pigment in it, and we'll polish it in there, and it'll fill in, you know, some smaller imperfections just to make it that little bit more shiny. And then we'll follow it up after you let it cure. You gotta let it cure because it's got SiO2s in it, like kind of like a wax in it. It'll cure, and then we'll come back through with a polish they made to go on top of this, which will protect your paint from water spots, bug guts, stuff like that. We'll come back through with that and polish it tomorrow once that's good and cured. Or not polish it, but wax it. I guess go ahead and get into that part. We're going to tape this off so that we don't shine it up, because we want it though. Want this part though. This part here I took loose like a dummy because I thought I'm gonna take these off. Nah, too much work. So I halfway took it off and I haven't put it back on there yet. Which kind of works out. It's a little bit more convenient for it to be off of there, but we'll put that back on there later. Alright, so get you polished. I always shake my products up before I use them, just because sometimes what they're made out of will separate. You want to shake them up to get them blended back together good. Okay. So let's put you up. That stuff's so runny. Let's put you a few little dots on here, and then put you a few little dots on there. Then just kind of tap it in here and get it on the panel. Kind of get it smeared around a little bit. Okay, and you want to start out a little slow, that way you don't fling it everywhere. Start out a little slow to get it good and worked into the paint. Alright. Then you don't want to run your drill too fast, because if you do, what'll happen is you don't want your polish to get too hot, it dry it, and then it won't work right. So you don't want to get too hot, plus if you get too hot it'll burn through your paint. So you just want a moderate speed and work the polish into the paint. You don't want to hold it in one spot too long either, because if you do, you're going to have that same problem of burning through your paint. Just going to clean the polish off her to show you how it worked. Not too shabby, eh? Yeah, he's a little bit more clean in there. But you get the basic principle. Then you'll go with your next step of polish. Editing trick to really show you the difference, but I may end up just respraying this fender, because you can see, like, you see it, some little cracks in it. I think it's from where I didn't primer the truck, and that paint underneath it was just so trashed, and I may lay some more coats of paint on it just to get it a little thicker, so that I could sand those imperfections out of it. But then we got one more step to go. And that's to put this on there. As you'll see, it's got like a black pigment in it. And that really helps to put a good sheen on there, on that black. Get that wet look. So I'm doing all this basically for nothing, because I'm going to sand this down and respray this fender. But it's good demonstration purposes. So work it in there. This stuff's the same way. Start out slow to work it into the paint. Then you want to take a clean microfiber rag and buff it off. So you don't want to use a rag that's got like a solvent on it, like I cleaned the other bit with the spray away. This you won't clean off of there. You buff it out. So it's kind of like a wax and a polish. So you'll want to just buff it around. Now you can apply that stuff by hand too, but I'm going to use the machine in this case. And now look there. That's one heck of a difference. I don't know if you can really tell that much on a camera, but here, see if I can get you in there a little better. This is what the fender did look like. That's what it looks like now. Not too shabby for an outside under a tree rattle can paint job. And by somebody who don't really know what he's doing. So, not too shabby. Well, I guess I'm gonna do the rest of the truck. Well, my dear one viewer, no viewers, zero viewers, that concludes my magnum opus, or however you say it. I've peaked. That concludes my peak. That's how you cheaply paint a project vehicle outside under a tree. So, I guess I'll wrap it up here. In the next episode, I will put taillights in it and headlights in it and, clean up underneath it. Touch it up here and there to put the final little eyes on it so that I can't drive it because it is a Dodge and it has transmission problems. So, until then, bye.